showers in western Missouri. There will be a good chance for thunder showers in the entire region Saturday and Saturday night. As the low pressure moves past the region, the chance for rain will diminish Sunday, and temperatures will be warm this weekend. The travelers forecast for selected cities. At Chicago, the low tonight.
The 1984 freshman drum major is Shelley Meeks. The twirlers are Lori Davis, head twirler Sarah Jarvis, and Lisa Davis. The band has selected Anything Goes from the movie Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Some of the most spectacular special effects were in the mine car chase scene. Also featured tonight in the jazz combo is Tim Kellett on clarinet, Greg Tatro on trombone, Bill Donovan on trumpet, and Lee Farrell on tuba. And away we go. Will you please stand for the invocation by Reverend Laverne Wilson and remain standing for the national anthem.
Could we have your undivided attention, please? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for the rich traditions that bring us together at football games. We thank you for this opportunity of being together tonight. We pray, first of all, tonight that you will protect every player from injury. We also ask that you'll help each player and each team to be an example to all of us tonight of good sportsmanship and of courage. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
This is a reminder to students, you are to be seated.
Good evening and welcome to Public School Stadium as the Sikeston Bulldogs take on the Poplar Bluff Mules. We've got a beautiful night tonight, no wind. Looks like we're going to have a great night for football. We've got plenty of seats, so if you haven't buckled down, why, come on out. Along with my colleague George Hale. George, what do you think of tonight's ball game?
Well, Jim, we don't want to talk too much about last week because we want to try to forget that one, but I fully expect the Bulldogs to bounce back and have a good football game against Poplar Bluff tonight. I know they've worked hard probably this last week for 4 or 5 days. The coaching staff, I'm sure, has done a good job in getting the players up and ready for this, and I expect a good one, Jim.
That's one of the toughest things to do, is to come back after particularly a loss like last week and get the kids up, isn't it?
Well, if there were many positive things in last week's game, they may have been hard to find, but you try to talk about the good things that they did do, also bring out the mistakes, and that's what you want to work on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and try to correct and get ready and come back again on Friday.
In all honesty, I did not think the boys played as bad as the score indicated. They were just, they played an excellent ball club.
Yeah, Kirkwood was a fine team, and they caused Sikeston to make some mistakes and turnovers, and they took advantage of every turnover that Sikeston made and put points on the board. You take 3 or 4 of those away, and if they had to drive down the field further than what they had, the score I don't think would have been as lopsided as what the turnovers gave them good field position just time after time.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Let's start as the Bulldogs and the Mules have come onto the field. We'll quickly give you the lineups. We'll start with the Bulldogs offensive lineup first, as we're not sure, well, the officials say the Mules. We'll start with the Sikeston defense then. At defensive end will be number 55, Chip Thornton. He's a 175-pound junior. At defensive tackle is number 71, Tom Pruitt. He's a 225-pound senior. At the nose guard is Mark Hamra, number 51. He's a 175-pound senior. At the other defensive tackle will be number 70, Jay Greenwood, a 250-pound senior. At the other defensive end is Ron Sells, a 175-pound junior, and he'll be wearing number 60. The linebackers are number 23, Matt Heckemeyer, a 165-pound senior, and Kenny Latham wearing number 27, a 175-pound senior. At the monster back, or the middle linebacker, will be number 24, Gary Ellis, a 160-pound senior. The safety will be Dennis Bean, a 195-pound senior, and he'll be wearing number 45. He replaces Brian Self, who was injured in the last ball game, and Brian will not be playing tonight. The cornerbacks will be Scott Carmody, number 12, a 165-pound senior, and Greg Grant, a 145-pound junior, wearing number 14.
Jim, a couple of factors, as you mentioned. Brian Self is on crutches and will not play tonight. Scott Carmody will be the starting quarterback for the Bulldogs. I'm sure they worked as much as what they could with him the first part of this week. I don't think he's had a whole lot of experience at quarterback this year. He played a little bit back there last year. And once again, we're going against a pretty good quarterback for Poplar Bluff. Brian Jones, number 14, throws the ball pretty well. He was hanging it up pretty good in pregame warm-up. So I don't think he's quite the caliber of Paholski that we saw last week, but I think we're going to look at some passing tonight for the Mules.
And we might mention that the Poplar Bluff Mules are picked to win the conference this year. They are the #1 pick. The Bulldogs will be defending the north goal, going from left to right on your screen. As Carmody kicks it off, the ball's bouncing around it. It looks like it could have been picked up very easily there by the Bulldogs.
Yeah, that wasn't a very smart play on the Poplar Bluff receiver's part. That ball's loose and can be recovered, and they were a little lackadaisical in trying to get on top of it.
They looked like they weren't quite organized as to who was to do what, did they?
That's one of those you take it, I'll take it type things, I believe. Anyway, they do retain possession.
So they'll start the game on offense, start from the 25-yard line, and their offensive alignment is quarterback as George said, Brian Jones. The fullback will be Alan Galmore. The tailback will be Robbie Crandall. The split back will be David Rowland. The wing on the right side will be, Carby Pfister?
Pfister, I think so.
The tight end is Keith Huffman. The center will be Jeff Tipton. The guards are Chris Rushing and Larry Greenwald. The tackles being Philip Norwood and Roger Ray. They've got a good size line also. They've got several boys there, 4 boys that are over the 200-pound mark.
Yeah, I think Bluff is billed as a big team. I don't think they're overly quick unless they surprise us with some quickness tonight, but they're just big and bruising, and they grind it out. As the fullback then, Alan Galmore, 201 pounds on the first carry, picked up about 3. Like I said, I read a comment from the Poplar Bluff coach in the paper that he said, we're big, we're not real fast, but we'll come at you.
Well, when you got a 200-pound or better backfield man in high school, that's a big backfield, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Jones is back to pass, and they have him. Looks like they were looking for him to pass tonight, and they put a good rush on him.
Mark Hamra, one of the Bulldog tacklers in.
That makes it a third and about 11 yards as we've just started the ball game. The ball's resting on about the 23-yard line of the Mules.
I also noticed, Jim, in pregame warm-ups, they'll put a lot of people in motion, and different people. They'll start the tailback in motion. There comes the split end back in motion. A lot of times that's awfully confusing to the defense.
Nice catch.
It's going to be short of the 1st and 10. Number 84, that's the tight end, Keith Huffman, 210-pound tight end.
And Hammer was putting the pressure on the quarterback again. He really rushed hard, and that was just kind of looked like a shot put pass, didn't it?
I think it's evident so far that Sikeston, knowing that Poplar Bluff's going to put the ball in the air, has put a pretty good rush on him so far. So maybe defensively that's their game plan, is to put some pressure on Jones and not let him throw it.
Well, it's a possibility we could end up with some good field position here, as they'll have to punt. The kicker is standing on about the 20-yard line as he punts the ball. The ball bounces.
Get away.
Uh-oh. That was one of those dangerous things.
I believe Greg Grant did field that ball and advanced it a couple of yards or two, but that's kind of scary when the ball's right there bouncing around and you've got defenders ready to make the hit. They can jar it loose and cause a turnover there. Certainly something we didn't need this early.
Yeah, you'd hate to see that happen really on the first series of offensive down you've got a chance at. But, again, they do have good field position as they'll start from their own 40. The Bulldogs will open out of the eye. And as George said, the quarterback tonight starting is Scott Carmody. Preseason, Scott and Brian were, along with
Greg Latham, I think, was another candidate,
were the 3 that really did a great deal. As we talked in pre-broadcast, they may work the option quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, that's a good dimension right there that the Bulldogs added. Carmody simply took the ball, reversed out, and swept the end and picked up a 1st and 10.
So as he crossed the 50 down to the 49 of the Mules, the Bulldogs will have a 1st and 10. Latham and Bean in the backfield as they're split to the far side. Give to Bean right straight up the middle, and he'll pick up 3 or 4. As we've just started the ball game, this being the first series of offensive downs, you see we've got 8:42 left in the first quarter. Bulldogs have moved the ball well so far in their opening offensive series, have they not?
One key, I think, on the first play that they ran, Carmody was able to pick up 10 or 12 yards. Like most teams, I'm sure they're keen on Dennis Bean. Well, Dennis didn't get the ball on the first carry, and Scott took it around the end for a nice gain.
Split backfield as they use the power eye and run the option to the far side. Carmody splits inside. He's still on his feet. He could go all the way. I believe he's going to make it down to the 10, the 5, and he's in. Touchdown. And as you say, that adds a great dimension to the Bulldogs' offense.
Yeah, Scott's got good speed, and I think he may be one of the fastest, if not the fastest players on the field. As he took that play 46 yards, there were a couple of Mules early that had a chance to make some contact with Scott, but he simply eluded him and went to the end zone.
What that really does is you saw they moved Bean out as a blocker, and boy, you picked up 3-4 blockers in a hurry on that kind of a sweep.
Well, with everybody keying on Dennis, that's certainly going to enhance everybody else's chance to pick up yardage.
The holder for the Bulldogs is Derek Tennant. Carmody kicks, and it's good. So with 8:07 left in the first quarter, the Bulldogs go on top, 7-0.
With Carmody's nice run and kick, we've got Carmody 7, the Mules nothing. Scott doesn't appear to be nervous opening there at quarterback. He seemed to have everything under control. And as we mentioned, he does have a lot of speed, and he has shown it twice and has gotten outside, certainly with the help of some good blocking to the outside, and he's taken it, he's running the offense well.
Again, that might be one of those things where we could say the Little League football has helped. Scott started in Little League football, so he's had the experience at quarterback, not only in Little League football, but in junior high and so forth. So that makes a lot of difference where someone can step right in with some experience.
It starts right taking snaps from the center. If you haven't gotten under and taken a snap about how to hold your hands and everything, you don't have that much time to teach somebody new all of those things.
A low kick as it comes out to this side, and they hit head on. Nice shot as number 42.
Nation Triplett picked up the ball.
As Chris Taylor hit him head on. That was a nice.
Yeah, 2 Bulldogs there made good contact.
He had a help from somebody, and I did not get that number.
Well, the Bulldogs already have done something they were not able to do last week, and so I don't think there's any question that they came out fired up, and the coaches have done a good job of getting them up as they simply just march it down the field and into the end zone.
Hopefully this can be a turnaround.
A big game, as you mentioned. This is the first conference game for both teams. Bluff picked to win our conference, so there's the loose ball.
Oh, and Bulldogs, I believe, but it got away, and I'm not sure.
Heckemark has come up with it. Whether the officials are going to rule.
It is the Bulldogs' ball. All right. So there's a turnover for the Mules, and we'll see whether the Bulldogs can capitalize. They'll have it on the Mules' 33-yard line, or right at the 33-yard line. Well, they're going to put it down to about the 32-yard line.
And again, it appears to me that the coaches and the players have worked hard, and they put last week behind them, and tonight's tonight, and they've come out and they're ready to play.
And this is what counts. You start your first conference game, and this is what you need to do. Again, the split backfield. The give is to Bean this side. He tries to slip outside. He's still going. They've got 3 on him, and they finally power him down as Dennis gets down to about the 25-yard line, a pickup of 4 or 5 yards.
They ran a little counter action in there, Jim. They faked to Latham going to the off left tackle and gave it back to Dennis coming back to the right side. Wasn't a whole lot there, but Dennis did pick up about 8 or so on that play.
Also, he's showing some other option off the same alignment as a while ago. The first time they slid Bean outside in the split backfield, they ran the option going that way. This time, as you say, they ran kind of a counter, although he'd been slip outside. And there's the eye, and he's hit immediately then. He tried the left side.
May have lost a yard or 2.
That'll make it 3rd and about 4. As you see, the Poplar Bluff Mules cheerleaders and their mascot. I guess we can't call him a jazz honky, can we? Carmody up under. He gives off to Bean again as he tries the right side, and he picks up all 3 or 4 yards. It's going to be close. I believe he's going to be, what, a little shot? No, I believe he may have it the way they place it over there.
Yeah, they signal
1st and 10.
First and 10.
He crossed the 20. I should listen to you.
Grant and Ellis in.
Again, the same alignment as they split the backfield, put the man in the slot as they try the option, and this time they've read it this time as they came through and picked it up.
74 from Poplar Bluff in on the
we've
tackle.
We've got Carmody down as he might have gotten a knee in the stomach there. He's getting up a little slow. So that'll be a second and about 15. A loss of about 5 yards.
Andy Moore, the nose tackle for the Mules, broke through the line and made the tackle on Carmody in the backfield.
We've got a timeout, Bulldogs, as Carmody goes to the sideline to talk to Coach Vickery. The ball will be resting on, what is that, about the 25, 26, 27 or 8 yard line. Well, we haven't seen a pass attempt yet.
No, but the dimension that Carmody is adding, being able to roll out and get to the outside, that threat of pass is always there that the Mule defenders have to respect, which also helps his running if he decides to keep the ball.
They may be getting close to that rollout pass setup where they come rushing in thinking it's going to be the option play or at least a quarterback around the end, and if he rolls just shortly and sets up the pass, why, they might have somebody out open in the flat.
Of course, you try to design your plays to make some lookalikes. You want it to look like a run when you do have to throw it if you're going to try a play action type of a pass.
Single man in the backfield as they put Bean in the slot, and it's going to be a rollout pass, and it was intended for
Vandenbroek, 88. A little bit wide of him. So on the same token, if Scott does roll and he intends to pass and his receivers are covered and he's got some open field, he can just keep it and tuck it and go down the sideline with it.
And after they see those things a couple of times, they may start to make the defense guess a little bit. That hesitation of a second or two can give you the 3 or 4 yards that you're looking for. There's a crossbuck back up through the side, and Grant's on the far side. And I believe he's going all the way. He did.
Gary Ellis.
Ellis on a crossbuck back the opposite way.
That's a little razzle-dazzle. He was in the wingback position or setting to the outside of the end, and they faked Dennis Bean in one direction and gave to Ellis back through, and he was wide open down the left sideline for another 7.
And as you say, that's one of those situations in which they were, it appeared, looking for Bean. The little fake action really set him up where Ellis had a wide open field once he got past the line on the far side.
Yeah, he sure did. Wide open, got a couple of blocks out there. Didn't catch the numbers from a block or two, but it was open.
10 and down. Let's see what we get.
No good.
No good. That makes it 13-0. Sikeston with 5:09 left in the first quarter. Considerably different from last week.
Certainly is. I'm sure the Mules have got to be in a little bit of shock, as we were last week when that happened to us. But again, it's remarkable to me that the Bulldogs are this fired up and ready to play.
And this can, you know, regardless of how close the teams may be in talent, you break a game open like this in the first quarter, and it just makes it tough for a team to get back at you, isn't it?
Well, it takes a lot of things away from you offensively. Some of the things, as we mentioned, what we read, Bluff was a grind-them-out type of a ground-running football team. Well, down 13-0 this quick, they still got time to grind it out, but they may have to put the ball up in the air and really more than what they anticipated they would.
I'm not sure whether this is by intention, but the Bulldogs have really kept that ball down and low in the kickoff. Nice hit by number 32. Number 32 hit him from the side. Brian Price really.
We saw some breakdowns last week, too, in some of the coverages of the punting and the kicking team. Apparently that's been corrected, too, because there's been no evidence of that tonight. People have stayed in their positions. They've gotten certain areas down the field to cover, and they're right there making good contact.
From a coaching standpoint, that particularly in high school is hard to get kids to do, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody wants to go toward the ball and try to help out, but in doing that, fakes and reverses and stuff, you can really get in trouble.
As they try up the right side of the line, very little yardage.
That was their big fullback, Alan Gilmore.
He just crosses the 25, and it'll be second and about 7 or 8. And I believe this is their third offensive possession, and I don't think they've crossed the 50-yard line yet, have they?
No, they haven't.
They're running out of the eye and put a man in motion to the far side. Jones rolls, looks like he wants to pass, and comes right back up the middle, and it closes in a hurry as he'll pick up about 2 yards.
Mark Caldwell, one of the Bulldogs, in on the tackle. I don't know if he really intended to pass that ball. It looked more like a quarterback draw. He went back and set up like he wanted to throw, and there was a little opening in the middle pretty quick as he took it to the middle, but that shut up pretty quick by the Bulldogs.
Again, a little flare in that he rolled a bit to act like it was a pass too, didn't he?
Yeah, the Bulldogs have put a lot of pressure on him, and maybe he's rolling to avoid some of that pressure.
Tailback's in motion as he comes out this way. It looks like a quick hitter over the line, and that's a beautiful play. As Bean hits the boy right after the ball went over his head, that'll make him remember that next time. Maybe hope he'll look at the defensive man.
Yeah, Dennis was right there on him, covering him nose to nose, and that's going to force Poplar Bluff to punt.
It'll be a 4th and 5 from their own 28-yard line. And again, a good opportunity for the Bulldogs to have good field position as they take over. Greg Grant stands deep to receive the ball. Derek Tennant drops back to help him as he tries the far side. He gets the corner. He picks up 10, 15 yards, and he gets up to the 50-yard line, maybe just shortly across it.
So it is again, indeed, Jim, good field position for the Bulldogs, which is a big factor in this game, is field position. If you're pinned way back in your own territory time after time, that also takes certain plays of your offense away from you. But when you're in midfield, you can run, pass, throw, whatever, and it adds more dimensions to you.
Yeah, it's field position, time, a lot of things go into what you can do offensively, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Uh-oh, we got a
first flag.
Yeah, I believe what we got is didn't get a good crisp cut. It looked like he was headed into the line, and I believe we're going to get motion on Dennis Bean there. You can't make that look like you're headed straight into the line.
Right. That's deceiving, they say. Maybe done intentionally to draw the other team off sides, but that's something they won't allow.
It looked like maybe Dennis stumbled a little or caught his cleat, and that might have made the lunge forward for him as he tried to cut the corner there coming back. There's what he was wanting to do. The give is to Latham as he pops through, and he'll get up to about the 50-yard line. He'll pick back up the 5 yards that they lost on the penalty. He may have even picked up another yard or half yard. It'll be 2nd and 9. 9.5 with 2:50 left in the first quarter. The Bulldogs are leading 13-0.
And offensively, they've used a good selection of plays. They've gone to the outside, they've gone off tackle, they've gone up the middle. Carmody's kept the ball, Latham has run it, Bean has run it, and he's tried to pass. So Bluff really doesn't know what to expect.
Yeah, the one big thing is that you can sure tell the difference in the number of Bean carries at this stage, can't you?
Yes.
And again, that was on Bean. He may have lost a couple of 3 yards.
Defensive end
4 yards.
Carby Pfister broke across the line very well that time and tackled Dennis for a loss.
You can tell that their defense is set up to key strictly on Bean.
Certainly, I think anybody that plays Sikeston, that's the first thing you have to do is stop Dennis Bean. If you can accomplish that, then you should be well on your way to winning a football game.
The man in the slot split both sides as Carmody rolls and almost intercepted. Not sure whether that was intended for Bean or Grant, or it could have been Vandenberg. Either one of the three. They're all right together there.
Vandenbroek was in the area, as was Grant and Bean, and Scott almost threw it to number 49 on the Mules.
Normally, you would say somebody ran a wrong pattern when you've got 3 men within 5 or 6 yards of each other like that, wouldn't you?
That play is not designed to be that way. You can gang all your receivers up in one area, and you've got all your defenders there, too. Probably 2 people were out of position then.
Bulldogs first punt as the Mules takes it. He had a little gutsy right there.
Yeah, he took that in the crowd, but he made the catch and picked up a yard or 2. But once again, Bluff's back in the hole. which is where we want to keep them.
That's right. So the Mules will start their offensive series from about the 22-yard line. The Bulldogs are ahead 13-0 as we're winding down the first quarter to about a minute and a half left.
Of course, the last offensive set that they had, they bogged themselves down with a penalty or two, and then they lost some yardage on the plays. But so the next time they look to do a little better on offense.
The give is to the tailback as he tried to slip outside, and he didn't gain too much. He might have picked up a yard or two.
David Tarpley, I think the first time David has run the football for the Mules.
Let's call it 2nd and 8, ball resting on the 25. Looks like Grant needs a replacement there, and quickly we get a replacement. Jones rounds to his left as it's intended for the big tight end, number 84, which is Hoffman.
210-pound tight end. The ball thrown a little bit high, but could have been catchable maybe, and just a little bit behind him. Would have been a good catch, but not badly overthrown.
Maybe it's just me, but it doesn't look like he's getting a spiral on his ball. It looks like it's floating more than it's a spiral pass.
Yeah, as you roll out and you throw on the run, that's hard for a high school quarterback to master. Is to throw the football on the run. So, of course, last week we...
Your release is different, isn't
yeah.
it? As the Mules are in the eye, they put the man in motion coming to this side, stops, heads upfield as they give. Looks like a draw play, and I'm not sure where. Did the Bulldogs end up with the ball there?
I believe it was on the ground for an instant, but I think the Mules were back on it.
They called it a loose ball or dead ball at the time, I guess.
I think you guessed that play right. It appeared to be a draw. It didn't look much like a draw, but the Bulldogs were right there anticipating that, apparently. They had good pressure on Jones, and when he gave it to the fullback, the tackle was made.
And again, they've got to punt deep in their own territory with, again, Grant standing back on the Bulldogs about 43-yard line. As that ends the quarter.
Wish they would tell us when they do that.
Yeah. One of these nights we're going to have to pick Clayton up out of the stands when they shoot that thing, aren't we?
Well, a good first quarter for the Bulldogs, Jim. They've put 13 points on the board, and offensively, except for the last time they had the ball, they've looked very good. And, of course, defensively, they've shut the Mules out, so they've done a good job also.
I was just trying to think. I don't believe that the Mules have got much past the 33-yard line, their own 33-yard line, have they?
No, they've been deep in their territory each time and not been able to move the football much the times that they have had it.
So the Mules will punt. The thing you'll find now is it's not your television. We've just flip-flopped on the defensive goals. The Bulldogs will be defending the south goal and going from right to left on your screen.
We'll have to reposition ourselves here and look left instead of right.
Grant is standing deep for the Bulldogs. They shift into the punt formation. The center. High punt. It looks like it's going to be short. Now there's something that's very dangerous. As you see, a lot of kids around that ball, and we had a couple of Bulldogs that were running with their back totally back and not knowing where the ball was.
I think that was some linemen that were getting back there to set up the block. Grant had gotten out of there. He started backing out. But some of those linemen, that ball could take a funny bounce and just barely flick them on the leg or something, and Bluff could have recovered it. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, that didn't happen, but that could have been a bad play.
The Bulldogs will take over. They'll have the first series starting from their own 42 as they come out of the eye. The man on the wing to the far side. The give is to Bean as he slips outside. He'll pick up the 1st and 10. He powers up over the 50 down to about the 47-yard line of the Mules.
Nice aggressive run by Dennis. He ran over a couple of Mules there and also stiff-armed one out of his way. That's a good, tough run.
That's got to be Dennis's best run tonight.
Yes.
He was needing some of those. He's had a couple of losses.
Of course, running off that right side behind Greenwood and Pruitt, which they'll probably run that direction 3 out of 4 times with the big blockers to that side.
I noticed they're using the man on the wings with a little help as they try to slip to the outside there. As they carry the ball across the 45 down to about the 44, and it'll be a second and about 7.
That was Ken Latham on the carry. Ron, you say Poplar Bluff in the first quarter ran 12 plays, 5 of which were passed, 5 runs and 7 passes.
5 yards, 7 yards.
Okay.
7 plays, 5 yards, 3 passes.
3 passes and netted 7 and
Uh-oh.
5 yards rushing.
Got an offsides. Looks like Pruitt jumped a little quick. He was wanting to get his man. You know, I believe that was it would indicate that that was a play that designed to look like it was coming this way, but may have gone out the other side as Pruitt was coming crossbuck on this side.
Yeah, they may have wanted to run a counter-type play that they ran successfully on the other end a minute ago. And Pruitt was trying to maybe shoulder block and get in the secondary and help on the offside part of the play.
Here comes the option as the quarterback. It's not a real true option. It's really the quarterback that comes with the end around, doesn't he?
Because he tucked that ball pretty quick when
Yeah.
he came around the corner, and it was obvious he was going to keep it. Had some blockers. Bean out in front, Grant out in front, but Poplar Bluff smelled that one out pretty good and forced him into the sideline.
That'll be a 3rd and long, about 7 yards, 6 yards, would indicate a passing down.
Derek Tennant in with the play, Gary Ellis out.
Now again, this is a possibility of using that option where he could either pass, or the true option where he could pass or give the ball off to somebody. They used Dennis there as
a decoy.
Decoy, didn't they? Gave to Latham, and he's going to be a little short, but they crossed the 40-yard line of the Mules. They've got a 4th and about 3.
You might look for that play a little later with Bean in motion. Carmody may raise up and pop a little pass out in the flat to him. One defender did move a little bit toward the outside to cover Dennis, but I think maybe that play may work.
In the eye with the man split to this side. The pitch is to Bean as they go around the far side. He cuts inside, and he's not going to make it, I don't believe.
Nice tackle by number 49, Alan Gilmore of the Mules, that came across and tackled Dennis for a loss, and they've turned the ball over to the Mules on downs.
So the Mules will take over, and that's their best field position at the 40, their own 40-yard line.
Yes, it is.
So we've got 9.5 left in the first half with the Bulldogs on top by 13. 13-0.
We'll have to see. That may have inspired Poplar Bluff's offense a little bit to try to move the football some. Good field position, and they did stop the Bulldogs on that last drive.
As you hear so much, is that a shift in momentum?
Yes, it is. Could be.
Again, he just kept fighting. They had him stopped right at the line of scrimmage. He may have fought himself to pick up another 2 yards, maybe 3.
He paid the price for that because there was no less than 5 or 6 Bulldogs that made contact with him.
That'll be 2nd and 8 with 8:51 left in the first half. Bulldogs on top. That's from the defensive team standpoint, you hold the team to very short yardage on that first down, and that's a real big defensive play, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That eliminates some things that they can do, possibly sets up the pass, but it's a big momentum thing, as you mentioned, to hold them to little or no gain.
It'll be 3rd and about 4.5, 5 yards.
That was number 91 out of the tailback position, Jim, and we don't have a number for 91 for Poplar Bluff.
Snuck in a kinker for us, huh? So the ball resting just across the 45 of the Mules. 3rd and about 4.5. Out of the eye, Jones rolls to his left, tries to hit his big tight end again, Huffman, and that's been his prime and only candidate, hadn't it?
That was a pretty good thrown pass, nice thrown pass. It was just a little high. Again, something that you work on. It was maybe a catchable pass, and had he caught it, he would have had enough for the 1st and 10.
In fact, you like to see your quarterback throw it a little bit to that side, to the outside and a little high, so that it makes it a little tougher to try to intercept, isn't it?
Yeah, that kid's fairly tall, and our defensive backs are relatively short, so...
Well, they made it to the 45 for their best offensive gain. No. Uh-oh, we get a flag, but I'd have to say that can't be.
Well, they're going to call roughing the kicker. I have to agree with you, Jim. Looked like that was Matt Heckemeyer that was in there, but he was blocked.
He was blocked into
the kicker. And
sure was. Obviously, they'll take the penalty, but
that will give them a 1st and 10. Now, that rule states, of course, if you do rough the kicker, but if you're blocked into the kicker by one of the other kicking members, then that's no penalty. But apparently, the official didn't see it the way we wanted them to see it.
He was standing behind the ball. I guess the play itself, we were looking directly into it, and it was pretty easy to see the boy blocked him into it.
Well, tough break for the Bulldogs. That's 15 yards, and that's going to give Bluff, once again, their best field position, or first time they've been in Bulldog territory.
You think maybe we could send this to arbitration and the judge could make the determination?
I think we've already decided what actually happened, Jim,
So the Bulldogs will go back on defense. This will be the Mules' first time into Bulldog territory on the offense. They're in the eye, put the man on the wing to the far side. Almost looked like they got a little quick jump on the far side, and a nice block as the men on the far side just took the blocker and pushed him right back into the runner, tripped him up.
Yeah, defense did an excellent job on that. They strung that play out all the way to the sideline, and there were plenty of Bulldogs there, and the ball carrier, I think, conveniently slipped.
Yeah. That's particularly how you teach your kids to do that, isn't it? Just keep shoving that offensive blocker right back into the running path.
And string that out to the sideline and use that sideline as a friend there. They run out of field, and that'll help you make the tackle.
Man in motion to this side. Jones drops back, rolls a little bit, and he tried to get out of the way. Pruitt was the first man in there, turned him back in, and when he did, he got help from Hamra, who brought him down. He loses 5 or 6 yards, and it'll make it a third and about 14. Board shows 13 with 6:29 left in the first half. The Bulldogs are up by 13. Other than this little flurry, it's been all Bulldogs the first half, hasn't it?
It certainly has, offensively and defensively.
A little crossbuck coming back this side. The cornerbacks did a good job of staying at home. He got a big opening.
Yeah, good hole in the line, number 24.
That would be Ellis.
Oh, David Tarpley again.
Oh, the Poplar Bluff.
Uh-huh.
I didn't catch it. Was it Grant that got the tackle?
Grant was one of them.
Okay. That'll make it 4th and about 2 yards for the Mules on the 34-yard line of the Bulldogs.
They've asked for a timeout to talk it over with the head coach. Pretty big play for the Mules, 4th and, what'd you say, 3 or 4, and they pick up the 1st and 10 here. They can continue their drive and get close to scoring. So it's understandable to use one of your timeouts in this situation, particularly down 13-0. This is a key play, so go over and talk it over with your coach and ask him for help. That's what he's there for.
As you see Coach Fiddler coming on the field, as we've talked in our other games, a relatively new rule allows the coach to come onto the field and at the timeout and talk with the players.
You can almost go out there and reposition them, put them down on the line and shift them around from place to place, but that's a good rule. You can go out there and talk to 4 or 5 players if you want to. in your own mind, you anticipate what Poplar Bluff may do, and you can talk to your players and tell them what to expect and try to make an adjustment to stop.
Yeah, I think, wouldn't you say, at this stage, he's probably warning him of the type plays that they're likely to run. And
yeah, I'm sure they've gotten some tendencies from the coaches up in the box up here with us that are relaying messages down that they've got a good idea what Poplar Bluff will try in this situation.
Single man in the backfield, a quick out, and it's going to be on the flat, and he's going to pick up his 1st and 10.
Yeah, Ellis made contact with the receiver right before he got to the yard line stake, but he fell across it for the 1st and 10.
Good call. They shifted everybody to the far side in their backfield and their wing back, split back.
A little pass thrown out in the flats. One Bulldog, I didn't see who it was. Was it Dennis Bean that jumped up and had a chance maybe to knock that down? And
that one's tough because it's awful quick, and it's just it's a good angle for the quarterback because it's not the flat pass, but you've got enough angle on it that you can up and hit him in a hurry.
Right, your receiver's out in front of you.
Again, number 21's hitting a hurry as they tried a little draw or delay up the middle, and they sniffed that out in a hurry. Pruitt on the bottom.
Yeah, I don't look for the Mules to get a whole lot on the ground up the middle. Bulldogs are just too big up front to allow Poplar Bluff to get much rushing yards up the middle.
It picked up about a yard, so it's 2nd and about 9 from the Bulldogs' 28, it looks like 27 or 28 yard line. We've got just a little over 4.5 minutes left in the first half, as the Bulldogs would sure like to keep the Mules from scoring here. Again, a little flat pass as they try to catch it, and Ellis tackles him almost immediately.
Yeah, Gary Ellis right there on the tackle.
It'll be 3rd and still long yardage. It'll be 4.5, 5 yards. The ball resting on about the 23-yard line.
Got an official's timeout here. Got an equipment problem with the Bulldog. Bluff hasn't thrown the ball downfield too much. In pregame warm-up, they were putting it down the field some, but of course, when you try to do that, you've got to have more time to throw it, to allow your receivers to get downfield, to try to clear the defenders, and I think the Bulldog pass rush will not allow them to throw very deep.
It looks like that's what they're trying to counter, is that Bulldog, particularly the pressure they're getting up through the middle, trying to give him if he's going to pass, he's going to hit him with a quick out type of pass, short, flat, and something he can get away in a hurry.
Because Pruitt and Hammer have been in that backfield on passing situations almost on every down, putting pressure on Jones. So I think that's one of the main reasons they've reverted to the little flat passes out there, which can be successful if you can get the ball out there to your backs. And they should be well covered, but you can pick up 4, 5, 6 yards on those little flat passes.
And that's all you need.
That's right. And if you get somebody that doesn't read the coverage properly, you might spring it all the way down the sideline.
You've got, in this instance, you've got size against speed. Poplar Bluff size against our backfield in the defense. It's pretty speedy, but they sure don't have the size to play with the Bulldogs. With the Mules.
So it's important that our secondary, reads their keys and stays at home and in the positions that they're supposed to be covering.
So with a little over 4 minutes left in the first half, and the Bulldogs leading 13-0, the Mules will try to move something toward the goal here as they start from the 23-yard line.
They've got to spread out a little more than what they have had.
Again, this was that same flare pass. Again, it is the flare pass again. Same one they got their 1st and 10 on a while ago.
That receiver lost the ball, but he was out of bounds, so that's going to be a pretty good pickup for the Mules.
It's a 1st and 10.
Yeah, David Rowland made the reception and comes off the field now.
It looks like the coaches decided that they may be able to move that ball by throwing it in the flats.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sure they haven't abandoned their running game altogether, but they haven't gotten anything on the ground up the middle. Bluff with another timeout.
Let's see, the Poplar Bluffs coach, is that Short?
George Short.
He used to be over at Dexter some years ago, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he coached over there for a couple of years, then left and went and coached in Texas, and this is his second year back in southeast Missouri at Poplar Bluff now.
So the ball is resting on the Bulldogs 15. It'll be a 1st and 10 for the Mules when play resumes. We're just under 4 minutes in the first half as the Bulldogs are leading 13-0.
Jim, earlier you mentioned the importance of this game, it being the first conference game for both teams. Our conference is only made up of 3 teams, Sikeston, Bluff, and Cape, so Bluff was picked in preseason to win the conference of the 3 teams.
Is not Jackson also in our conference?
I don't think that they are.
I was not sure of that either the other night, but I was looking at a schedule, and it indicated the Jackson game as being a conference game, and I'm not sure of that.
Well, you may be correct.
They certainly aren't a 5A school.
No.
As you know, they used to be in our conference, and I don't know whether they stayed in the conference or when they went to the 5A why they got out of the conference. As they gave it to the tailback, Gailmore, he was tried a quick opener up the middle, but it didn't open up much, did it?
No, they haven't had much success running the football up the middle.
I'd say we might see another running play and then that flat pass again if they're not have too much success on this run or this play. I say the run. It may not be a run.
Yeah, they may try the flat pass this time. They use a lot of motion, and they put different people in motion at various times. There goes the tailback.
That.
Yeah, he broke toward the line.
Yeah, he sure did, and he did a fake and.
Wow. Dennis Beam really popped that receiver.
Nice.
If Dennis hadn't made good contact, that ball may have been caught, and he might have gone into the end zone.
Yeah, he was awfully close, wasn't he? That'll make it a 3rd and 9 from between the 14 and 15-yard line of the Bulldogs.
Pretty good faking on that play. It looked like they were going to give to the fullback up the middle, and then Jones raised up and hit a man that was open momentarily until Dennis separated the ball from him.
Dennis is a pretty good-sized boy himself.
Yes, he is. I guess by far the tallest and the weightiest of the defensive backs.
Man goes in motion to the far side.
Broke up a little quick.
Rolled to this side as they're going to try. He's going to try the fake, and he tried to use the fake to get him shook loose.
Thornton came up to make the tackle along with a little help from Latham.
The ball moves inside the 10 down to about the 7-yard line, and it's going to be 4th and short for the Mules as that clock winds down under 3 minutes.
Quarterback Jones looking to the sideline. I guess he was short a man. They're waiting for his play. Coach, I don't know what to call. You better send it in.
That's one of those you say, well, that's all right. You guys go ahead with 10.
And the Bulldogs take a time.
Now, that's an interesting situation. You want to explain to us why would a coach wait till they're ready to come to the line of scrimmage?
Well, I don't know. In this situation, Poplar Bluff didn't seem to know what they wanted to do immediately until they did. The coach decided and sent the play in, but then the Bulldogs took the timeout to get their defense adjusted. Coach Fiddler comes back onto the field with some replacements.
Many times you want to see what kind of an alignment they're going to come out with and then take the timeout to see if you can't counter that with your defensive movement, knowing that obviously they can change their play, but at least you know what they think their strongest play in that situation would be.
Yeah, it gives you an idea what they might want to do in that certain field position, and that's a good time, as you mentioned, to call a timeout. Particularly now, you can come out on the field and send a little beef in there, and make some replacements and some adjustments, and try to shut this fourth down play.
I guess basically at this stage what a coach would be looking for was to determine whether or not they had a tendency to throw it in this thing, or whether it was going to be a straight run.
I don't know. It's a good question. They've got them really spread out, and I think you probably could look for that little flat pass over to the left side. They've run that out of this formation before.
Oh, we can. Okay, we've got delay of game by the Mules. That'll bring them back 5, and that's what you really hate to see if you're a Mule coach.
It's an unusual penalty to give a delay of the game after a timeout.
Timeout, yeah.
I don't think the Mules can get straight really what they want to do. The quarterback looking to the sidelines, and so I guess they've readjusted and they've had to change their play again.
And it looks like Coach Vickery's staff has countered with that as he brings the beef back out and makes a little change there. I would say he's probably anticipating the pass in this instance.
Yeah, I almost certainly this sets up the pass.
As Jones rolls, and he's getting a lot of pressure as he wants to go backwards. They call it. That ball just fluttered up in the air, but the boy caught it, and he was in the end zone.
Was not well thrown, but the ball was caught by David Tarpley in the end zone for the touchdown.
As they say, I'd rather be lucky than good any day, huh?
Yeah, Jones rolled to his left and then stopped and looked back down the middle, and Tarpley was pretty much open down the middle. Jones didn't do a very good job of getting the football to him, but Tarpley made a nice catch of it.
Very important, I would think, to the Mules that they got on the board this first half.
Yeah, as we talked some last week about trying to get on the board in certain situations, but they had a controlled drive, and even with some penalties, have gotten it down the field, and they're within 6 of tying this game up.
So it's that makes an altogether different ball game. With 2:26 left, it's 13-7 Bulldogs. You go into the locker room with a 13-point lead, and particularly where the other team hasn't been able to score or move the ball.
Well, you mentioned
really build up that momentum, don't you?
A minute ago about momentum when Poplar Bluff did stop the Bulldog attempt at a 4th down run and then took the ball over. Now they continued that drive and they put it in the end zone. So momentum is a big factor, and I believe it swung just a little bit. So it's the Bulldogs' job with this offensive set to get the momentum back.
They got the momentum and they got the break. The key, I think, in that was the play where on the punter, where the block punt.
Yeah, that's one we don't really agree with.
Yes.
But anyway, there's 7 on the board for the Mules.
At least they made it count anyway. As Grant picks it up, he comes straight up the field. He's still on his feet as he passes the 20 to 25-yard line, and he's down about the 30-yard line. Good run back for Greg Grant.
Yeah, they try to wedge it right up the middle with most of the players just forming a wedge. And then as the ball carrier, he can look to the outside. If he can see an opening, go ahead and take it and cut it to the outside, as he did then, and picked up some yardage.
So the Bulldogs will take over. With a little over 2 minutes left in the half. They're now leading by just 6 points. Bulldogs in the eye. The give is to Bean, as Bean really pops through there, and he comes up past the 30, 35, up almost to the 40-yard line. And that'll be close to a 1st and 10 for Dennis, and that's an excellent first down run. That opens up all kinds of possibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was just reminiscent of a play a minute ago when he made a nice run.
Let's see, we got another, what's that?
Going to measure this.
We're going to measure.
Going to be inches short.
Looks like it's about a half a nose short, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ball resting on the 39 of the Bulldogs.
They'll start the clock as soon as they get the chains reset. Well, the Bulldogs break the huddle now.
At this stage, you're wanting to use that clock. You'd like to get another score on the board, wouldn't you?
Yes, you would.
And Dennis comes right on through. He makes the 1st and 10. We're down to about a minute and a half. Bulldogs up by 6, and that moves the chain, stops the clock until they get the chains moved.
You might look for the Carmody rollout now, either keeping the ball or maybe putting it up in the air. They've got a little over 56 or 7 yards to pick up here for a score.
They give us to Bean right back up through the middle, and they open up the middle, and he just pops right on through in another 7-8 yard pickup. Now he's getting that opening, and he's really put his head down and really making the run.
I see a flag there, and there's a face mask on Poplar Bluff, so that's going to tack on probably 10.
And that's a big help because the Bulldogs can get their play called. We've got a minute 15. We've got plenty of time now as that moves the ball down to about the 35 of the Mules.
That must have been that old nasty face mask penalty there, because they did penalize Mule 15. That was judged a flagrant type of a face masking penalty.
Split backfield, and here comes the quarterback around as he whoops. Uh-oh, he tries to get away, but he's not going to get anywhere on that one.
It's awfully tough to reverse your field, and
yeah,
sometimes you can pull a surprise out and get some yardage, but if you've got defenders pursuing you like they should, then when you make the reverse, as Scott tried there, you're going to have somebody looking right in your face.
Now, when you watch the pros, you can tell the difference in that runner will help set up that block for the blocker. And, you know, that's something that they'll just learn. One of these, a good block as he cut inside just right. So we're down to a half a minute, and now we got a time problem, don't we? We've got a third and about 14, the ball resting just on the long side of the 40-yard line.
Well, they haven't stopped the clock yet.
Looks like they may be content to run the clock out and see what happens. There goes Scott. Uh-oh. That's one of those, again, inexperienced. He almost gave that ball away.
Yeah, that could have been tragic there. If that had been up a little bit more and that nobody in his way, he could have gone all the way to the end zone with that.
So we've got 2 seconds left. The Bulldogs up by 6.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that play, Scott should have just eaten the ball and taken the loss instead of just trying to put it up for grabs.
That's one of the things that young quarterbacks really have to learn, is when to eat the ball.
That's from experience. I guess after so much experience, you learn maybe not to do that, but that could have been awfully bad play for the Bulldogs. Had that been intercepted, there would have been no one to make the tackle on the Mule.
Okay, that'll be a 1st and 10 Mules ball with 2 seconds left. They're just shy of the midfield stripe. One of these be one of the Hail Mary passes?
I don't know. You might try that little flat pass out in there and try to get some blocking and maybe spring the guy down the sideline. I've yet to see anything thrown deep over 15 or 20 yards down the middle.
With 2 seconds, you feel that there's, you say there's just going to be one play. Obviously, what you try to do is get it in the end zone on one play, and the question is, how do you do that? Do you figure the defense is going to think you're going to throw it long and just gang up in the backfield, and you try to run it out through them?
You've got Dennis about 25 yards deep there to stop the long pass.
And he didn't even get it off as he smothered
Vandenbroek in on that sack.
Okay. The one good thing about that, it seems to me, is that, the Bulldogs in the last half of that second quarter really got kind of down. They didn't seem like they could stop the Mules, and the Mules had that momentum going. Well, this is a good way to go in when you sack that quarterback and keep him from doing something.
They flattened out a little bit. I don't know for what particular reason. Poplar Bluff, on the same token, had gotten inspired a little bit and did put together a good drive. They stopped the Bulldog drive one time. So I don't know where momentum is sitting right now, but of course, again, you got the job of getting your dogs up at halftime in the locker room and getting them back out.
So we'll take about a 10-minute break, and we'll be back with you at about 10 minutes.
1984. The Sikeston High School Department of Music is very proud to present the 1984 Bulldog Marching Band. The band is directed by Mr. Pat Curry and is led while on the field by junior drum major Miss Christy Latham and by our senior drum major for 1984, Miss Courtney Corbett. The band will open tonight's presentation with American composer John Williams' Olympic fanfare and theme, which appeared so prominently in this past summer's Los Angeles Olympic Games. Watch now is the exciting 1984 twirling line led by head twirler Miss Cheryl Hodges present their version of Cyndi Lauper's current hit, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Just as John Williams' stirring Olympic fanfare will forever evoke memories of this year's Los Angeles Summer Olympic Games, the soundtrack to the Academy Award-winning movie Chariots of Fire can't fail to bring to mind the story of friendship and courage depicted in the 1926 Olympics. Senior Leslie Adams and Junior Chris Giles will be featured as trumpet soloists. As the band prepares to conclude this evening's presentation with the traditional red and black, we'd like to thank you for your kind attention and warm applause.
Welcome back to the second half of the Sikeston Bulldog Poplar Bluff Mules game as the Bulldogs lead at halftime 13-7. Ron, you want to give us the stats for the first half?
Okay, Jim, it looks a whole lot better than it did last week. Looks like the Bulldogs ended up the first quarter with 95 yards running, 0 for 2 passing. Second quarter they had 40 yards running, 0 for 1 passing. So they have a total of 135 yards total offense in the first half. Bluff had only 5 yards running and 7 yards passing in the first quarter, 17 running and 26 passing. So they end up with total of 22 and 33 for a total yards 55. So the penalties almost really made their one touchdown.
That's right. That one penalty, which we kind of disputed. I was asking the judge on the way up whether or not he wanted to arbitrate that. He said he muttered a little bit on that call.
Well, as we look at their statistics, it shows they made the one sustained drive, but really they didn't throw the TD pass. 15-yard TD pass was really and the penalty with
right,
the two
with the two keys. And that, as you say, that their total offense basically came the last almost 1/4 of the second quarter, didn't it?
Right. The last series of downs was the only time that they really moved the ball. They had the ball 2 other times in the second quarter. Looks like, or one other time, I guess, is the only time they had the ball in the second quarter, and that was right at the very end when they lost the one play, 7-yard loss. Statistically, we're not doing bad. Bean has 44, Latham has 13, Carmody has 51, and Ellis has 27 on one play. So we're scattering it around a little bit tonight.
The interesting thing is to see the Carmody Bean, who's got, with Carmody having 51 yards, being the leading ground gainer.
Yeah, of course, 46 of that came on one play too. We had, the two big gainers there with the TDs. We had a 46-yard touchdown by Carmody, 27-yard by Ellis. So Carmody has, of course, he's lost some yardage on passing attempts. So that cuts back on his total yards. But Dennis has picked it up. He only had 11 yards in the first quarter, and he's gained 33 in the second quarter. So maybe we can look for him to come back out here. We're going to get the ball first, so I'll give it back to you and George, and I'll start writing the numbers, and hopefully they'll be the right kind of numbers.
You better write the right kind of numbers. Again, George, this is a little different from last week, too, in that when we came out, we were down, and when we came out the second half, we had to play defense to start it off. This time we can switch it around, and we can start off on the offense, can't we?
Yeah, last week we were behind, and then we had to kick off to them to open the second half. That just added a little insult to the injury. I think we've got tonight, Jim, what we anticipated, a good football game and relatively close score. That's just what I thought when I came, that it would be a good game and the scoring would be close. Again, we're talking about the momentum. It seemed like it had switched there a little bit when Poplar Bluff took the ball and drove down the field. Now it's going to be the Bulldogs' job to get it back, and they can do it right here at the outset with the football.
So the Bulldogs will open up receiving the ball, and the Mules will kick. The Mules will be defending the north goal, going from left to right on your screen, and the Bulldogs defending the south goal. And yet we have no wind. It's a nice night to be playing tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, a little humid, a little sticky anyway. Most people are in shirt sleeves. You see a few sweaters down here, but it's a nice night football-wise. We might remind people that a taped replay of tonight's game will be shown Tuesday night at 6:30 on SPS Channel 12.
As the Bulldogs prepare to receive, the Mules are placing the ball on the hash mark at the 40-yard line. And we're about to get underway for second half action with the Bulldogs leading 13-7.
See, Greg Grant has gone deep to replace Scott Carmody. He had been back there most of the year, most of the time in that one position, but since Scott's been moved to the quarterback spot, they've put Grant in the deep receiving position.
What do you think the coaches talked about basically at halftime?
Well, trying to get things squared away and get the football back. I think this first drive that the Bulldogs have is going to be awfully important, and I'm sure they stress that.
Grant receives the ball on about the 5, and he pops, and he could go all the way as he's just caught by the next to last man. He comes across the 30 down to about the 33-yard line of the Bulldogs as they'll start the second half from pretty good field position again, won't they?
Yeah, Greg busted right out of there. Again, Bulldogs tried to wedge it up the middle, and that time he didn't try to go to the outside. He saw an opening inside and just about popped it for all of it. Latham, Bean, Carmody, don't see any changes for the Dogs.
Again, they open in the eye, which is their standard formation. The give is to Bean as he pops outside. He gets around the corner, and he'll pick up first and 10, you think? before they got him out. Uh-oh, there goes a flag up out on the far side. Let's see who it's against. That's normally speaking unsportsmanlike conduct, wouldn't you say, after down?
I thought assumed that was against Poplar Bluff, but I saw some of the Bluff players clapping their hands, and the Bulldogs are going backwards. Yeah, that's too bad. Because Dennis, with that first run from scrimmage, had gotten the momentum at least started in our direction, and now it's going to be backed up.
I didn't catch the signal, but it's a major penalty.
That's a tough break.
So we're right back to the 30-yard line.
Yeah, you're right. You're going to get an unsportsmanlike, but I don't think we're going to find out exactly what they're going to call.
Normally speaking, what you think about over there is somebody shoves him after he's out of bounds and he retaliates, and unfortunately the officials seem to always catch the last guy, not the first guy.
And he's the less guilty of the two parties involved.
Uh-oh, he breaks right up the middle as he keeps coming. He's loose. He's down to the 40, down to the 30. He's still going, but he finally got pulled down from behind.
That's
Gary Ellis.
Ellis again on that wingback reverse, if you want to call it that. Certainly made up that penalty.
And then some,
yes,
didn't he?
Yes, he did. That was a well-called play, well blocked, and well executed, just like the first time that he ran that play.
Now, that's what you need. You know, you start out with a good play, you get kind of boxed on your ears and set you back, and instead of laying down, you come back with a big play, and you're right back where you were.
Just hitch up the belt buckle and say, okay, fellas, let's get it right back, and they did it in one play.
With the ball resting on about the 22 of the Mules, the Bulldogs will try to punch it in from here. The give is to Bean, and he's hit almost immediately, and he's still about 4 or 5 trying to bulldog him.
Dennis met right in the hole by Andy Moore, the nose guard. Apparently, as quickly as Andy was there, he wasn't blocked too well, if at all.
Yeah, it looked like Dennis tried to stop and figure out another place to go, but there was just too many on him after that.
Pretty good match weight-wise. Andy Moore 192, Dennis Bean 190, so they had a standoff there.
The ball resting on about the 22. They give him a yard or so pickup. It'll be 2nd and 9. In motion goes Bean. The give is to Latham. He pops open. He's still going as he passes the 15 down to about the 12, 13-yard line.
A very good run by fullback Ken Latham then. Was hit a time or two early, but struggled forward for an extra 4 or 5 yards.
And the coaching staff is still using Dennis as a decoy, and it's beneficial to him.
I think before this game's over, we're going to see a little flat pass out to Dennis on that play.
They're going to measure to see whether Kenny picked up the 1st and 10 for the Bulldogs. We've just started the second half. Bulldogs are up by 6. We've got 10 minutes left in the third quarter with the Bulldogs knocking on the door. As they come to the line of scrimmage, the Bulldogs line up in the eye. A man on the wing to the left side. The give is to Bean, and he just rolls over 2 or 3.
They lost the ball, and Bluff has recovered.
And Bluff recovered.
Crucial turnover in this situation. Bulldogs driving. We're close to scoring, but now the turnover.
And the Mules take over on their own 10-yard line.
Dennis was hit pretty hard in that hole on the left side. Again, somebody wasn't blocked properly, if at all, and met Dennis right at the hole and shook him loose from the football. Well, that'll stop that drive, Jim.
And again, that we were hoping to get that momentum shifted, weren't we?
Yeah. Old Mo sometime pretty elusive, though.
Again, a shift in the line as they over. Uh-oh, we got a timeout. I think Mr. Jones didn't think his team was really quite sure what they had called, and so he calls a timeout.
Well, it was hard to tell up here what they were trying to do.
Looked like one of the old shifts where you overload one side.
Yeah, maybe go to an unbalanced line, but they weren't very sure of what they wanted, so they called a timeout. Again, in that situation, deep in their own territory, a timeout. You hate to waste them this early, but in this situation, it's one well spent.
That's a good timeout. Yeah, I'd have to agree there. That because if you make one mistake here, you got yourself pinned in your own end zone.
I think if you're Poplar Bluff, you've got to look at this situation. You may not drive all the way down the field and score, but try to get it back close to midfield, so if you have to punch, you can pin the Dogs back.
Again, that comes back to that field position is key in most every game, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's very important, and right now Poplar Bluff does not have good field position, and it's a Bulldogs' job to keep them pinned there and make them punt from deep in their own territory.
Again, they come out to split both men to this side, out of the eye. He rolls, gives to his tailback, and he's not going to make but a yard or two as he comes across the 10 to the 11 or 12 yard line.
That was Crandall, the tailback, and once again, they're trying to run that football right up the middle at Hamra, Pruitt, Greenwood, and they're just not much to get there.
2nd and 8. We've just opened the third quarter. Bulldogs lost the ball on their first offensive series, fumbling it at about the 10-yard line, and this is the first series of the Mules in the second half. Jones rolls back, going to pass. He's hit. He gets loose. He makes up, and I believe he's going to make the 1st and 10 as he comes across the 20-yard line.
Dana Carter putting a lot of pressure in there that time, along with one other number there, 79. That's Mark Caldwell. Applied good pressure, but Jones was able to get to the outside.
And it is the 1st and 10 as they cross the 20 down to the 21. Now, I'm sure this is where Coach Fiddler would like to see his defensive unit really buck up and hold them here.
Yeah, of course, ideally make Poplar Bluff turn the football back over to you.
Crossbuck, and as he comes across, he's brought down by number 23.
Matt Heckemeyer.
That's Matt Heckemeyer, the linebacker.
Probably one of the biggest gains that they've made right up the middle. Had a good hole that time, and the ball carrier right through it, and a pickup of what, about 5?
5 yards, because he's right at the 26-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 5 for the Mules.
Yeah, he got in that linebacker territory in a hurry, and Heckemeyer had to make the tackle.
As you say, it was a big hole. They really opened up a big hole.
Buddy Clayton might have been able to run through that one.
Well, now, it was a big hole. Fullback goes in motion. Again, the fake, and the quarterback keeps. I believe he really wanted to pass that ball, just couldn't find anybody. Did a real good job as he picked up another 4 yards, and it's going to be a 3rd and very short yardage.
A couple of Bulldogs made contact with Jones about 3 yards back, but he was able to shed their tackle and pick up the extra 2 or 3.
Looks like we're going to get a measurement here anyway.
Yeah, it's that close.
As the ball is about the 29-yard line. Looks like it's going to just be a hair short. As the officials will replace the ball at the hash marks. Looks like it's going to be a 2nd in inches. Ball resting just on the 29. Third in inches, excuse me. As the Mules come out in the eye.
You might look for the big fullback right up the middle. They haven't got much yardage up the middle, but they ought to be able to get the yard or so.
As the tailback goes in, it's a quarterback sneaking. The ball's empty, and they pop straight up. He's going to take it all the way in, and that's Bean. They hit it right on the nose, and it popped straight up, and Bean just took off. And again, we get that quick play back. Puts it on the board for the Bulldogs at 19.
Recovered fumble in the air taken in by Dennis Bean. Jones had the 1st and 10 on the quarterback sneak and a yard or 2 extra, but somebody puts a hammer to him, and the ball popped free. Dennis picked it up and ran it in.
That ball never hit the ground. Dennis saw that thing free in the air, and he was gone, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. 34 yards.
So that was a 34-yard touchdown run for Dennis Bean. With 7:01, the Bulldogs up by 12 and hoping by 13 after the extra point. It'll be 10 and holding for Carmody. And we've got a timeout, looks like. Not sure I understand that timeout. I'm not sure who called it.
Well, apparently Poplar Bluff had called it. Like you, Jim, I don't know for what reason.
Now, again, that'd be one that you would say as a coach you would, to see called, be like to use that.
Yeah, you might want to be able to use that more valuably later in the game, but the kid had called it. I don't know. I see Carmody in now. That Bulldogs may be going for 2. There was a missed extra point on the last Bulldog score.
Good point. Bulldogs in the huddle as they call signals for the extra point. And as you called it, I believe they're gonna try for line up in the eye. Carmody up under. Long count. The give is to Bean, and he just pops up and over, and let's see. Is he going to be short?
He is short.
No good. No good. So the Bulldogs take a 12-point lead, 19-7 with 7:01 left in the third quarter.
Well, good turnaround for the Bulldogs, Jim. Recovered fumble, taken in for a score. Now the defense is going to have to do it right again after this kickoff, and if they can stop the Mules again and get the football back, then they will have done a good job of getting momentum back to their side.
How quickly the events can change.
Yeah, it doesn't take one play to turn that around.
Now, you know, as we said in the first quarter, it seemed like 13 points as we passed the second quarter mark going into the halfway the second quarter and leading by 13 points. That looked awfully good, but as we saw, they quickly closed that door and went in with 6 points down. Just one touchdown, and they were ahead if they could make their extra point.
That's right.
Now, again, you know, that's a situation in which how much difference it could have been if the Bulldogs had to receive rather than be on the offense to start that second half.
Yeah, to open with the football is always much better.
Kick is up. He's knee touched. Yeah, he called it. They call it right there.
Robbie Crandall made the mistake there of being so sure he was going to catch the football that his knee was on the ground, and the officials blow it dead right there.
Now, for those who watch a lot of pro football, that pro could pick up and run there, couldn't he?
Yes, he could, but in high school, when the knee goes down, that's really a safety factor. That's a good rule to have in there. It wasn't a very wise one for the player to make in that situation, but it's a good rule.
That's particularly true. I think they discussed a lot in those rules committee about kids not knowing when to pile on, and if he can get up and run, they always want to make sure he's down, so they pop him good when he's down to make sure of that. There's that quarterback, and it's going to be a little dipsy-do, and here comes Dennis Bean, and everybody's up to look for it. Unfortunately, that just took a little too long to develop.
Yeah, a little too much height on that. Bean and Tendon both back covered, had the receiver well covered, and any one of the three could have intercepted or recepted the ball because it was right in the middle of all of them.
So with 6:32 left in the second quarter, we've got a 2nd and 10 for the Mules on their own, looks like 16 or 17-yard line. Dogs by 12. Out of the eye, split the man to this side and put the man on the wing to the far side. He comes in motion to this side. As Jones drops back, he rolls a little bit. He's hit, gets rid. Again, he's gotten rid. Although there's a lot of pressure on him, he's able to that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very elusive. Caldwell was in and made contact with him early, but Jones was able to get away from him and struggle forward for a gain.
So it'll be 3rd and about 6 for the Mules. The ball resting on the 22.
It looks to me, Jim, the Mules have abandoned the one thing they've done pretty well with some success is a little flat pass out there. They haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, that is curious. You know, you think from the second quarter they would use it.
I thought they're going to call pass interference on Dennis Bean. That was awfully close. Dennis may have made contact with him just a count before the ball got there.
That is real controversial kind of call there because the defense has a right to try to catch that ball. I guess what really, and it was hard to see from here, is that Dennis, it looked like may have been reaching over the back when he was trying to do that, and most likely you almost always get that pass interference call on that, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know if the pass could have been caught or not. It was close, but Dennis, in his effort to make the reception, I think just a fraction of a count early, went over the receiver in contact, and thus the pass interference penalty.
So that gives the Mules a little life as it brings the ball to their own 37. It'll be a 1st and 10 for the Mules. Vandenbroek tries it hard, and again, the Bulldogs look like that they worked on that little flat pass again. They had 2 or 3 men out.
Thornton, Heckemeyer, Caldwell, Grant all out in the flat. Crandall was the receiver of the pass and picked up only 2 yards.
It'll be a 2nd and 8 for the Mules. Ball resting short of the 40-yard line.
Yeah, Jim, I agree with you. What you said, Poplar Bluff did have success with that little flat pass, and I'm sure that's one thing that Coach Fittler and staff talked about defensively in there was getting out in the flat with some good coverage.
As number 31 comes across the 45 down to about the 47 or 8-yard line. And that looks like we may get that's going to be a 1st and 10, I believe. Yeah. Resting on the 48, 1st and 10.
Again, Robbie Crandall for the Mules hit off the right side through a good hole to pick up the 1st.
As you saw, Pruitt and the rest of the middle of the line comes back in. Greenwood, those boys are going to see if they can shut it down from here. Looked like they were giving him a little rest. And fullback goes right up the middle as Greenwood brings him down, but not till he's picked up almost the 1st and 10.
Mules are on the move.
They sure are.
And once again, a direct result of a dog penalty. Earlier we had a roughing the kicker, and the Mules later took that down and put it into the end zone, and now we had a pass interference call. And the Bulldogs and the Mules are moving with it.
Okay, the Mules have it. Out of the eye they come with the tailback in motion. A little tried to pop it, and he had him wide open. He just popped it a little behind him, but that's what they were working on.
Carby Pfister had a chance to go all the way. The ball was just a hair thrown behind him. He tried to one-hand recept the ball, but fell to the ground.
They had Dennis trying to sneak in and get those runners, Ace.
Now Dennis had moved up a little bit, anticipating run. They did some good faking inside, which set up that play.
Out of the eye they come. The end split to the far side. The give is to the first man as he's brought down by Latham and Heckemeyer.
I guess the Mules in this situation are in 4-down territory. If they don't make it on 3rd down, then I don't believe they'll punt with this field position.
I wouldn't think they would here either.
Down a couple of scores. Still early in the 3rd quarter, though.
3rd and about 5.5. Key down for the defense of the Bulldogs. Intercept as he comes back down the end. Far side, Ellis goes out of bounds about the 47 or 8-yard line.
Nice catch by Gary Ellis, who's doing a lot of things out here tonight for the Bulldogs.
And again, they tried that little flare pass with a little different look from the line.
And the coverage was there by Ellis.
So the Bulldogs will take over on their own 45, 46-yard line. 3:54 left in the 3rd quarter. Bulldogs 19 and the Mules 7. Now this is where I guess the coach would like to just take a little ball control, work that ball down the field. Hopefully you can come up with some kind of score, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown, and eat up that clock.
Yeah, nothing to give it to Latham up the middle, give it to Bean off tackle, and run the wing back a little bit and just try to eat some time up.
or Tabine up the middle, and he'll pick up 10.
Yeah, that's good use of the clock, and also picking up yardage.
That'll be second and a short yardage of about a 1, maybe 1.5.
Dennis right up the middle behind his center Mark Henry, and both guards, Tom Pruitt and Jeff Lester.
The give is to Latham as he tries the middle, and he may get close to the 1st and 10, but we'll see where they put his forward progress. I believe they're going to mark it a little short of that line. There you are.
Yeah, that'll bring up 3rd down.
I believe they marked it. They didn't give him, I thought was his full forward progress.
No, look from here as he did cross the 45-yard line.
That'll be 3rd and short yardage. Put the wing to this side as he comes into the slot. And let's see, he got right at the 1st and 10.
Carmody kept that on the quarterback sneak and has struggled awfully close to the 1st and 10. Depends on where the officials mark the football.
Let's see what we got. We got to have a measurement here to find out whether or not that was made. The ball is across the 45. It's not quite to the 44. As they bring the chains in to measure.
Once again, we've got Jerry Dyer and his chain crew having to come onto the field times here on some measurements.
Now it looks like this is going to be maybe a half an inch short. You're near midfield. You're ahead by 12. You try the 4th.
I'm going to say yes because I didn't see any people come into the Bulldog hunting. They're going to go for it.
Again, you know, now this is a gamble. Talking about early in the ball game, only up by 2 touchdowns. They're going to just dive right on across and then make it. But should something happen there, you've given them real good field position, haven't you?
Well, that shows an awful lot of confidence in your offensive line. But as you mentioned, a fumbled snap or something misplayed and a turnover, then, you know, you've given the football up. But with what the offensive linemen are and knowing the snap count, with that forward thrust, you would theoretically, or most of the time, you'd like to think that you could get the half a yard or so, as they did.
Bulldogs 1st and 10 from the 44. The pitch is to Bean as he tries outside. He's going to make the corner as he cuts upfield. He tried to change gears there and see if he could put a fake on somebody. He did pick up some pretty good yardage. I believe he'll pick up 6-7 yards.
Got a pretty good block out front of that play by Greg Grant, the split receiver that time.
You can't emphasize enough those lead blocks, whether they're done by the lineman to open the hole or whether they're done by a backfield man as you try the sweep, can you?
They don't always have to be very aggressive. You could just get in front of the man and shield him off a little bit, brush shoulder block.
All right, he slipped out of a tackle there as Dennis keeps going. He goes down over the 20, down to about the 15-yard line as he broke 2 or 3 tackles doing it.
Yeah, good tough run by Dennis as he's made 4 or 5 good runs tonight. Dennis a little slow in getting up.
Yeah, looks like he's down a little bit. Could have got a knee in the stomach or along that line. Hopefully nothing serious. So with a timeout here.
Jim, that may present a problem. Times before when Dennis has had to go out of the game, Carmody has come in and run at tailback. Well, Scott's at quarterback. At other times late in the game, they've run in Mark Wiggins, and before the game, I've seen him. He's not dressed out. He's apparently injured some way, so I don't know who we're going to tailback.
He's not available, huh?
No.
There, I noticed as we had the halftime break, there are several boys either on crutches or having the limps some way.
Yeah, looking across the way, we can see 2 Bulldogs on crutches. One of them, of course, is Brian Self. 2 or 3 Bulldogs not padded out do have their jerseys on. One of them is 35, Mark Wiggins, who is not in pads. Who do we have at tailback?
It's 30 some odd. I'm not sure. 36.
Mark Gerald, the sophomore.
Mark is a sophomore, 165-pounder. So with counting down to about a half a minute, Bulldogs are up by 12. They're again knocking on the door as they have it on the 15. It'll be 2nd and 10 for the Bulldogs. Again, it's back across as they try that wing back
reverse or whatever you want to call it. Gary Ellis takes a step to the backfield and then comes around off of the opposite side or up the middle, wherever the hole may be, and he has run that to perfection tonight and picked up a lot of yards using that play.
The interesting part of that is that it appears that he has the choice whether when he gets to the center to cut straight up the center or to slide out over the tackle on that reverse.
Yeah, he can read the play, and he's done an excellent job of doing that to either take it up the middle or cut it off to the outside. He's reading the play well.
This looks like the last play of the quarter as the Bulldogs are down inside the 5, and they pop in a...
That was Dennis back in the game.
He tried to pop over his right guard, and he may have picked up, what, a yard or so?
Yeah, I think he's gotten it down to about the 3 or 4.
As we change ends to go to the 4th and final quarter, the Bulldogs are by 12 over the Poplar Bluff Mules, 19-7. It'll be the Bulldogs' ball. We'll have to see where it is, but it looks like it's going to be, what, a 2nd and maybe 2 or 3 yards?
Yeah, 2nd and goal at about the 3. This is an awful important touchdown. If the Bulldogs can get it in, then Poplar Bluff really going to have to play catch up and put the ball up in the air more apparently than what they want to. And Bulldogs buckle down here and get this one in the end zone. And
that is a 1st and 10. So it'll be a 1st and goal for the Bulldogs from about the 3.5 or 4 yard line.
Scoreboard says 2nd down. I thought that last play was the first play of the 1st and 10 series. They have moved.
Yeah, I did too.
They flipped the 1 over on the down mark.
We're going to call it 1st and goal from about the 4 yard line.
You saw the problem take it in on this play, and now they have flipped it back to 2nd down.
Okay, it is 2nd down.
Mr. Munger in the scoreboard apparently had that one diagnosed.
Bulldogs running out of the eye. Bean is back in at the tail slot as he comes right up over the middle, and it's going to be, he's in. As you say, take it in now and not have to worry about it. Good forward surge right in the middle of that line as Dennis just was able to run up their backs, and he was over when he did.
Big score, as we mentioned, for the Bulldogs, puts them up 25-7 with the extra point attempt.
And as you say, that is a real important, I think, touchdown because it really puts them behind the 8 ball. They've got to come back with 18 points, hopefully 19. Then you're talking about, say, 3 touchdowns in 1 quarter. We're going to get to 2 as Carmody comes across the fake inside, and they pick up the 2 as we go to 27.
A good job of faking. They faked the ball to Dennis Bean and had about 11 mules waiting for Dennis to hit off tackle. Dennis hadn't had the ball. Carmody kept it, rolled around the end, and got into the end zone.
So that makes it 27-7. 4th quarter just underway. As you can see, it's 11:59 in the ball game.
Yeah, Jim, as you mentioned, this is going to force Poplar Bluff to do some things that they don't particularly want to do, perhaps. Their passing attack has not been very good, particularly the deep passing attack. In fact, I guess they've only put 1 so-called bomb up in the air and had no results with that. And the little flat passes are being well defensed now by the Bulldogs, so they pretty well shut down their passing, and they can't grind it out in 11:59 to get back into the game that much. So the Bulldogs have things pretty well in control.
Yeah, the most effective play they've run this second half has been that quarterback option. And the quarterback has been able to gain some yardage there.
Well, again, if the defensive line will get across and pressure on Jones and take the option away from him, that'll be a big help.
Yeah, that's a key, is how you play that quarterback. He drops the ball. Let's see who's going to get it. He looked like he wasn't sure who it was. It's free again, and let's see who ends up with the ball. Do the Bulldogs have it? Let's see how they come out. The Bulldogs are jumping up and down, and I believe the Bulldogs have it. And that's what you really look for, is put the nail in the coffin right here.
Chris Taylor, Bulldog kickoff man that time, got a pretty good foot into that, but once again, not well covered by the Mules. They let the ball hit the ground too many times, and you shouldn't allow it to hit it at all.
Yeah, it looked like the initial boy who had caught or attempted to catch the ball was thinking that the next boy was going to pick it up and he was going to let him do it.
Well, again, that's the second or third case where it's you take it, I'll take it, or somebody, and it costs them the football.
And the Bulldog says we will. So the Bulldogs have it as we open up the fourth quarter. Bulldogs up by 20, and they have the ball on just across the 20-yard line of the Mules.
Now they've
I beg your pardon, it is the Mules ball. I thought it. I'm not sure what happened there.
Obviously, they judged that had recovered the ball.
Even the Bulldogs didn't look like they were ready for defense. I think we were also one man shy on the field on that play. We only had 10 men on the field.
One comes in and then turns and goes off.
Give is to the tailback as he slants off the tackle, and he'll pick up a few yards as he's gonna be close to his 1st and 10, I believe.
But I think right here in this situation, Jim, the Poplar Bluff has gotten away from the pass. They're simply keeping the ball on the ground and go to what they can do pretty well, that old grind-it out type of an offense, but they just don't have the time to pick up 20 points doing that.
Again, the Bulldogs would be happy for them to do that, wouldn't you? You let them get out, even if they move the ball down the entire length of the field, you're going to use up 5-6 minutes, and they just won't have the time.
I kind of expected them to come out throwing the football and once again trying to pass us out into the flats that they've had some success with in the first half, that the Bulldogs have shut down very good in the second half, but they've kept it on the ground.
Mules will have a 1st and 10 at the just shy of the 30, let's call it 29-yard line. They're in the eye. Jones calls the signals, gives to the fullback as he comes across the guard, circles back across the center, and he'll pick up a couple of 3 yards.
Again, play calling that's kind of hard to understand. That was a give your fullback straight middle for a pickup of 2, possibly 3, and use another minute off of the clock.
As you can see, we're down under 10 minutes left in the ball game. And as George says, the Mules are trailing by 20. They've got to have 3 touchdowns to beat us. Tailback in motion. Uh-oh, he starts upfield, and they pick it up right then. Uh-oh, interception. That's
Derek
Tennant, and he brings it back to the 40, 35. It'll be almost a 35. I suspect we'll take the play instead of the penalty there, don't you think?
Certainly will, yes. Nice reception by Tennant.
You could tell the quarterback, the tailback had started the slant out, and he just started upfield about a step soon.
Yeah, he knew he had made the
he
mistake.
knew. Yeah, he hesitated.
He said, uh-oh, and had gotten caught. Bulldogs declined that penalty. They take the football 1st and 10 at the Mule 36-yard line.
Looks like the
36 and a half.
Yeah, 36 and a half. Tennant remains in the ball game as he comes to the wing to this side. Wait a minute, get a timeout. Mules. Let's see, what do we got? Timeout with Mules. Is that their 3rd timeout this half?
But the second one, I know they used one at the other end early in this half, and now they waste one here. I guess the Poplar Bluff coaches feel that they've certainly got to stop this Bulldog drive any chance, if they have that even, to get back in this game.
Try to get them up here so that they don't just lay down and quit, huh?
Yes.
Well, the Bulldogs would like them to show them that whether they're up or down, we're going to run that ball right back down to the goal line. Bulldogs out in the eye. Wing to this side is Tenen. Okay, there's a fumble. There's that guard play. Tried a little quickie guard play. As they handed to Pruitt, Pruitt started around the far side and
never found the handle, did he?
Didn't find the handle quite yet. Probably looking up to see who was going to come at him. He said, I know how they block from this side. It'll be a 2nd and 10. Pitch is to Gerald. He gets around the corner. He's still going. I believe he's going to pick up his 1st and 10 and then some. Good run.
Yes, it was. That's a good blocking out in front. Took it to the outside, turned it up, and picked up good yardage.
That'll give him confidence.
What? Is he a sophomore, did you say?
Greg Gerald. I believe he's a sophomore.
165-pound tailback, is a sophomore.
Tenen still on the wing. And a split to the far side. In the eye as Carmody barks the signal. Give is to the fullback. Is that Latham or they have someone?
I believe it's 32.
32, okay.
Brian Price, another sophomore in the Bulldog backfield.
So coach is trying to give some extras a little, as Greg Latham comes in to quarterback, coach is trying to give a little experience and to some boys.
Brian Price listed at 180-pound sophomore.
Yeah, he has played in the line some even. There goes Gerald as he gets by the first wave. He's just tripped up as he turns the corner. He goes down to, and they put it on the 15-yard line.
His reserves are fired up, aren't they,
Yes,
Jim?
they are. They're ready to play.
88 Vandenbroek still in the game. Try to catch
Keith
some of these
Buck,
other
a
numbers.
sophomore, 150-pounder, comes in the ball game. As he's the split in, goes to the far side. Tenen in the slot to the far side. The give is to the tailback, and he's hit as he tries over the middle. And again, you'll see a little mistiming here as the boys try to get their timing. The quarterbacks have not always handed off to the particular halfback or tailback, and it makes it a little difficult until they can get plays run where they can get some timing.
Yeah, they just don't get the workload, of course, that the first team do, but they're getting some valuable experience now. C78, Brent King into the lineup. 56, Ron Baker in at a guard position.
Vandenbroek is in. We might mention that Vandenbroek, Chris was gone last week. He's had to be at the wedding of his brother in Michigan, and he missed last week's game. So
Maybe
I guess
it's just as well.
He's going to make up for it tonight. So the Bulldogs have it at the 15. We're down to 7:19 left in the fourth quarter. The give is to, was it King?
Price.
Brian Price.
Keith Buck out. James Washington into the game for the Bulldogs.
And he's a 170-pound sophomore, split in.
Jim Perkins, number 49, in at tight end.
Latham barks the signals. And the pitch is to Gerald as he tries to cut outside. Just too much there as he was trying to, and did a good job really of, he tried to fake inside to give that blocker the chance to get the position on his man.
But Poplar Bluff still has their first unit defense.
They had their
in there
first
too.
unit, and they were just able to overpower him a little bit. He picked up a yard or so. It'll be 2nd and 9, let's call it. Be good to see him punch one in. That'd give him a lot of confidence. Uh-oh, missed snap. Let's see, we got a fumble, and what do we got?
Bulldogs
still have it. We'll pick up maybe we'll call it 3rd and 10. Loss of about a half a yard or so. Clock winding down to right at 6 minutes left in the ball game. The Bulldogs up by 20. We're going to get timeout as Latham wants a timeout here to talk over with the coach. Maybe somebody didn't understand what they were supposed to do, and he just wants to check with the coach here.
Darrell Wasson, number 80, into the football game.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Keith Buck came in with that play, and as soon as he told Greg what play the coach wanted to run, Greg looked around and possibly didn't have the personnel to run that play, and he called timeout to go discuss it with Coach Vickery.
That's normally what happens. A lot of times a play comes in and maybe somebody from the bench doesn't come in that is supposed to be playing on that particular play.
And that's why it's on Latham's part to call timeout and to straighten things out and not try to run the play when you don't have the proper blocking or backfield personnel to run it. I think we've mentioned everybody.
I was trying to look too. I didn't see anybody in there that I had not seen you call the name on. Might mention too, for those who may not know, the head coach for the Bulldogs is Charlie Vickery, and he is assisted by Randy Fiddler, Jerry DeMint, and Don Porter. And as George Hale said, they've done a good job. Done a good job in getting the boys back up after last week's loss. Looks like the Bulldogs will close out the fourth week with a 3-1 record,
which is very respectable. All four opponents the Bulldogs have played have been good. Of course, we know what Kirkwood was last week. Blytheville was a strong team. Charleston possibly a little weaker than what they have been, but 3-1 after 4, Jim, that's respectable.
Yeah, I would say Coach Vickery would be real pleased with where they are at this stage.
I certainly would too.
A little fancy reverse here.
James Washington.
we're gonna have a clip here as number 80,
Darrell Wasson.
Darrell Wasson was trying to get his man. He was a little ahead of him.
Yeah.
Clipping against the Bulldogs refused. It'll be the Mules ball on downs. They'll take it at the 20-yard line, and really the Bulldogs really didn't lose much there. That's not if you figure you can get them at the 20 or below if you're starting defense.
I do hope they move a little closer to the ball to run their defense, though. The penalty was refused.
Yeah,
they
weren't really sure
they were going to mark it off.
Yeah.
We may have some new numbers now to look up here.
A little inexperience there as the Mules try to run up off the tackle there. They'll pick up a couple of 3 yards, maybe 4. As we're coming down to 5 minutes left in the ball game.
6'5" Joe Sevick on defense for the Dogs.
85 looks like Joe Fetch. He's a 170-pound junior. The give is to the tailback, and again, you can tell the spirit out there now, can't you?
And the Mules continue to keep the ball on the ground. I guess a little apprehensive of having to put the football up in the air and just going to try to run it and run the clock out.
66, Rob McCalley's in. He's a guard. He's a junior, 185-pounder. We'll see if we can pick up all of these numbers for you. Willie Gillespie, a 210-pound sophomore, in at tackle. 69 is Robert Yoakley, a 170-pound sophomore guard. I thought I saw an 18, but apparently I didn't.
I think we see an 86, Tyrone Marshall in at defensive back.
Chris Taylor's in at the linebacker position.
Brad Oftenberg's in the secondary.
Hard pitch, and let's see what we've got coming now. Oh, they're all over him, and he's going to lose a good 10 or 12 yards.
42 came across. Chris Taylor made good contact on that and got help from other Dogs.
Looking good, this defensive unit.
Yeah,
they're really
aggressive.
fired up, and the Mules still have their first unit in there.
Yes. Jim Laughlin into the game for the Bulls.
So we're down to about 3.5 minutes left in the ball game. The Bulldogs up by 20. And, you know, we have to say that the only touchdown that the Mules got in the first half being off of a questionable penalty, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Good run there as he kept momentum, and he got up to about the 40-yard line of the Mules, still of the 1st and 10.
The quote questionable penalty did happen back somewhere around the 40-yard line, and then after the penalty was marked off, the Mules did take the ball the other 45, 50 yards down the field and punched it right in. But that's been the only threat they've given tonight.
It's 3rd and about 3, under 3 minutes left. The give is to the fullback as he tries the middle. And again, you know, it is, as you say, you know, it's just, you wonder what's going through. What comes to my mind is a coach has given up.
Well, that's what it appears. They're not at all anxious to put the football up in the air. Of course, that's the quickest way to get it from one end to the other is to throw it, and they're not anxious at all to pass the football.
So the Bulldogs look like they're going to end up with 3-1 after 4 weeks going tonight as they rebound hardly from last week. The pitch to the tailback as he comes upfield, he gets by 1, he goes past the 45 down to about the 48, and the clock's still moving. Clock is stopped for the change of the chains. We've just got over 2 minutes left in the ball game.
Jim, I think I've echoed what you just said about the ability of the Bulldogs to bounce back after what happened to them last week, that they've done an outstanding job of coming out and have beaten a pretty good football team.
That's right. As they say, good play by the end on the far side as they had a whole passel of players headed toward him, and he just took out all of the blockers and let somebody else get the runner.
Bulldog 42, Chris Taylor. One
Good.
of them in there. So now I think the Bulldogs will start looking forward to Dexter, who will close out our 4-game homestand during this season. Rather unusual to play 4 games at home in succession, but Dexter Bearcats will be here next week.
Buddy, is homecoming next week? Okay. It's got to be either next week or the 19th of October when Cape Central's here. As it's a 1st and 10 that moves the ball down past the 40-yard line as we're just at the 1 minute mark left in the ball game. The only question left now is will the Mules get another score on the board?
Can the second team defense keep Poplar Bluff's first team offense out of the end zone at the final so here?
As we're down to 3/4 of a minute left, they're coming hard, and I believe they're going to do it. He didn't make much on that, if anything.
Brian Price into the Mule backfield there, awfully quick for the Bulldogs to put some pressure on Jones. So we may have had a quarterback change.
Yeah, I believe Nagy is now quarterbacking for him. He's a 158-pound junior. So this could be the last play of the ball game.
Much, Jim. I don't see too many reserves down here on the Poplar Bluff side.
You sure don't.
Hadn't paid much attention to that.
We're down
like there
to
may be 15 or
7
so.
and counting as the Bulldogs have the lead 27-7. Good outing as we've indicated tonight. We finally get a timeout from the Mules with 2 seconds left. We're going to have one play. Ball resting on the 35 of the Bulldogs. 2 seconds left.
If you're ever going to throw it, now's the time.
Now's the time. You don't have anything to lose.
Wouldn't be surprised to see them run a quarterback sneak, though, in this situation after what they've done in this last offensive set.
Yes, it does look like they're really too anxious to get that ball up. Okay, we've got everybody. Wait a minute.
Thoroughly confused.
Yeah.
Now the Bulldogs take a timeout.
Take a timeout. They had a little personnel trouble there, trying to shift boys in and out, get players a chance to play.
Well, that's understandable with reserves in there and trying to work as many people in as possible. You get a little confusion, but if you've got a timeout, go ahead and use it and get squared away.
A lot of times you get down there and the coach keeps saying, you go in, and the boy says, who, me? So with 2 seconds, we'll see whether the Bulldogs can stop them here on the 35.
Coach Jerry DeMint, leaving the defensive huddle there, is back to secondary up about 15 yards deep, anticipating us, but not to be. Straight handoff.
And question is just stop him right there.
And they fumbled the ball.
And that's the game, as the Bulldogs end the ball game on the note of a 27-7 win. What are your thoughts, George, on this game?
Well, I think we've got to congratulate the coaching staff and the players. Again, we've echoed that a time or two about the way they have rebounded from last week's football game. I wondered about what effect that would have on them, but Bulldogs fell that pretty quick. It came out, had a couple of laps. I think maybe a thing or two to be concerned about. They had a couple of major penalties tonight that hurt them. Gave Poplar Bluff some pretty good field position. So other than just correcting some penalties, too many penalties possibly, they had an excellent night.
I thought they did too. They looked real good, and as you've said, I think we need to congratulate the coaching staff and the boys for really rebounding. Ron, you got the statistics that we might finish up here on?
Yeah, looks like, Jim, I just about got it totaled up here. The Dogs end up with 138 total yards in all running in the second half, after 135 total in the first half. Poplar Bluff looks like a much better second half. They end up with 123 yards running, 2 yards passing after only 55 in the first half. So they really came back, and of course a lot of that was against, in the very end there. Their third quarter was only 48 yards. They got 75 in the fourth quarter against some of the younger boys. But all I think, as you and George have indicated, the Dogs showed what they're made out of. I think that's the real key to the whole game.
We might remind you before we switch off the air that this will be replayed. This game will be replayed on SBS Channel 12 Tuesday at 6:30. So for George Hale and Ron Klutz, this is Jim Green saying good night.
PM at Cape Girardeau under partly cloudy skies. The temperature